What's going on, Bruin Nation, LAFB fam? How we doing out there tonight? The Thriller and Madman back together again for all of your UCLA football needs. And of course, our guest is no guest, the man who needs no introduction. We're so excited to have him and get his pearls of wisdom. The Silver Fox, the first member of the starting quarterback club to beat USC back-to-back years, and the treasure of the UCLA football community, and our favorite, Mr. Wayne Cook. How we doing, Wayne? So great to see you.
I don't know if I deserve all that, but I'll take it. The silver part was accurate. I don't know about what everything else was, but that's true. You guys, hey, listen, it's football season, and you mentioned media day. First of all, Will, I'm looking all over the place for you. I'm waiting for all the questions.
Oh, man.
And I didn't see you, man. Jamal and I are having lunch together. We're hanging out. And where's Will? I know sometimes life happens, right?
Yeah, man. Unfortunately, couldn't make it, but I had two good people holding it down at YouTube, man. So that's all that matters. We got the content we needed. Madman crushed it out there for LAFB. So as long as we got one person repping it, that's all we needed. But sorely missed a good time between you two, as always.
Oh, man, it was always missing Thriller. And Wayne, we were talking at lunch about all the great questions that Will would have asked for sure. And Wayne, I gotta say,
yep.
It was so much fun for the other members of the LAFB network to finally get a chance to meet you, like Ryan Dyrud, Tim Prangley. I mean, the SC side of the house couldn't stop raving about you and talking about you on the trip back home. Just how amazing Wayne is, how gregarious Wayne is. You are the star of the show, Wayne. And so that's how far your charisma goes when the SC side of the house is sort of such big fans of you as well, which was really incredible. So I wanted to share that with you before we dove into any sort of football-related stuff.
Please cut all of this out, and then we'll just start from... That's terrible. Hey, listen, I love that stuff because I love hanging around with people that love football. And, we've talked about this for forever, guys. We don't always agree. If there were no rivalries, if there was no USC and UCLA, it wouldn't be nearly as fun. I love the fact that we're still in the same conference, even though we've moved to the – I swear, I almost say Pac-12 or Pac-10 all the time. I catch myself constantly because it's so hard, but it's still football. And there's still great programs, and there's still this connection. And there's this feeling, you guys. And don't get mad at me because I know people think I'm excited every year. But last year's team could have won 2 or 3 more games easy. It was right there against a good Minnesota team. We had a great chance to beat USC. Like, there were opportunities. Heck, we were tied 17-17 at halftime against LSU on the road. This team just didn't have an offense last year. And everyone out there can pick and choose who they're going to blame. And I'm not going to – we can talk about this till we're blue in the face, whether it's coordinators, line coaches, quarterbacks, whatever, and you all know how I feel about some of that stuff. But what we have right now, if you have not been watching Tino Sunseri, and I've been lucky enough to be able to practice a couple times already, I'm going to go again tomorrow. Watch Andy Kwan coach offensive linemen the way offensive linemen need to be coached. They want to be kicked and cussed at and told they're not good enough. They eat that stuff up like, bring it on, coach. And Coach Kwan gives it to them. But Coach Sunseri, man, he can hold a room. He coaches the way I would like to believe that if I coached, I would have coached. He'll yell at you. He'll say a bad word every once in a while. He'll get pissed, but it's all in motivation. It's never really in anger, and I've always said the best coaches that coach. I mean, don't get me wrong, they get frustrated. But, man, he's trying to light fire under these players, and he's trying to coach them the right way. So we're going to go from a team, you guys, that scored 16 points. And again, maybe I'm wrong. I keep throwing out that number, but around 16 points a game last year, which is terrible. And we're going to score a lot more points. I can guarantee it. What we're going to do this year, not only that, but being around Coach Foster this year, there's a confidence. And we saw it at Big Ten Media Days. And I brought this up, and I thought it was so cool that you have a head coach that says, listen, I know how to coach. I know how to – I've been a great running back coach. I've played in Super Bowls. I've played in Rose Bowls. I've done all this stuff. But he looked at his team in the eye and said, I have to get better at this other stuff. I have to get better in front of a microphone. And I'm not kidding you guys. I hosted an event the other night where he spoke. Man, he grabbed that microphone out of my hands. I don't need an MC. And he just starts talking to the people. And I'm like, this is a different. And I'm going to tell you, he took it on like an athlete takes on anything. He didn't avoid it. He didn't run around it. He just said, I'm just going to avoid that stuff. He took it on head on. And what a role model for his team. Not to mention, he brought in a staff that is his staff.
Right.
I can't emphasize that enough. It's like he feels so comfortable. I had a great moment with AJ Stewart, who I just met. I had not met him until the event the other night that I was at. And we had a great conversation. And there was a moment where Jet, we're going to learn that nickname, right? Javion Thomas.
Yeah.
They're calling him Jet. He bounced one to the outside, and he kind of squeezed it to the inside and then took it around the outside and showed that explosiveness that we did not have last year. Breakaway speed. Both DeShaun Foster and Coach Stewart, both of them are talking about, did he press it long enough? And it was so funny because we were talking about it. He goes, man, I know Coach Foster so well that sometimes when he says things to my running backs, when they come back over, I say, what did he say to you? And the running back will say the same thing you said to me.
Wow. They're
on the same page. And to me, man, I get chills just thinking about that because I've been on teams and I've been around UCLA football when the staffs have not been cohesive. And I've been on teams and I've been around staffs where they are. And you can really feel the difference.
No, it's such an exciting time, Wayne, and I can't wait to sort of, you've sort of touched on it a little bit. Can't wait to get your thoughts and your impressions just overall on fall camp. But before we go there, any sort of lasting words from Media Day, 10 days ago? You mentioned it felt like a new DeShaun. You had a wonderful interview with Martin Jarman where MJ was talking about all of the success, not just football and basketball, but all the other sports. I mean, it feels like we got the best player in the country in 9 other sports. What you sort of saw from Nico, what you saw from John DiGiorgio, just any sort of nuggets or tidbits that you maybe picked up on Media Day that maybe the average fan or the national media did not.
Well, I want everybody, first of all, go to UCLA's website and watch those interviews. I mean, Nick Cope and myself, we did a really, really good job with everybody there. And
absolutely.
The Martin Jarman interview, I just basically said, well, the great thing about interviewing, and you guys know this, if you have a good talker, you just kind of say, go. Tell me, give me a State of the Union, Martin. Come on, give me a State of the Union. What's going on at UCLA? And I pointed out a couple things, how well we were the only team that had softball and baseball and gymnastics. I'm throwing out a few things that I knew. Man, he went on a rant. And I already knew that we were top 4 in winning. I mean, it was basically Oregon, Michigan, Ohio State, and UCLA that were the top 4 schools as far as the year goes in the Big Ten. And I laugh because people almost act like, whoa, it's just UCLA. I'm like, you guys all need to shut up. We're a freaking great school, and we've always been a great school. Look at the national championships, where you're not as good at. And I just read something the other day. Someone posted something the other day, and I know this was a long time ago, but to be quite honest with you, a lot of our fans are from a long time ago, so we remember this. And when you go back to the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and UCLA had dominant football programs. I just saw Corey Paz the other night, and he was talking to me about that, when he was young on that Cade McNown team. And he was like, I don't care what anybody says, Cade McNown is one of the greatest college football players of all time. And I'm like, you're damn right. I watched him play. I mean, how could you not watch that? I mean, we all know what happened and the craziness and how that thing ended. But DeShaun Foster was on that team. That team was loaded with talent. Corey talked about us having the number 1 recruiting class in the nation. That happened all the time back then. Charles Arbuckle, goes on, posts up online all the time about his teams in the 80s. I mean, we won 3 Rose Bowls in the 80s. A Fiesta Bowl. Like all these things we were doing, we were an elite program that would have been back then competing for this new current playoff system every year. Every single year. Even a year we didn't have an elite year with Tommy Maddox, we were 9-3, and we were right there, and barely lost it. We're right there. So my point is I truly believe that Coach DeShaun Foster and the staff can get this program back to where it needs to be. The way college football works now, and with, I like that someone called it I'm going to screw up this name, the kind of return recruits that we're getting, the people that leave California and then come back, like Nico and Nico and Madden. Like, and by the way, Madden can throw you guys. Dude, I'm telling you, Luke can spin it. Clarkson, Hasselbeck. I mean, we got probably more brain power when you add in Tino and his intelligence in that quarterback room. It's incredible. And those guys are staying after practice and working their butts off. But anyway, I'm doing what I always do, you guys. I'm running all over the place. There's too much stuff going on up here. But the idea is that we're kicking butt. But one of the things that I love that Martin said is that we brought in the number one transfer in football and basketball, and Iamaleava and Dent. And if you don't think a quarterback and a point guard can change the dynamic of those two programs, I don't think you're paying attention. I know everybody out there says, well, it didn't always work. Remember when we had so-and-so? We didn't. Again, tie that into really good coaching and trying to fill in the talent in the transfer portal around this young man. And by the way, you can feel the confidence that just exudes from him, and you feel it in the players around him too. So I'm just telling you, that was one of my favorite parts, was when Martin went off on that just absolutely brilliant, like he didn't have anything written down. And I swear it would for 5 minutes, some of the accolades of UCLA. That's one thing. Coach DeShaun Foster, I told him after I was interviewing players when he was at the podium. So we watched it. Nick and I watched it on our phones afterwards, and he walked over. I just looked at him. I said, "Man, I absolutely crushed it," and he knew it. I think he prepared like he would for sure to do that. So that was great, and I love talking to Nico. I don't get the world has decided that when a guy like Beck leaves Georgia to go to Miami and make $4 million, oh, that's okay. And then when Nico leaves, oh my gosh, how these players chasing money. Have you been paying attention? And by the way, it didn't sound like it was about the money. It sounds like, because he still came to UCLA, it came his family. And then his brother comes. I'm like, doesn't that tell you it's probably about family? I again, met him, love him. Interviewed him, love him. Then I watched him practice, and I went, oh, wow. Doesn't mean he's not making mistakes, because they're all learning new stuff. Right now, the install is coming along. But if you watch his feet, if you watch how much he cares, if you watch his leadership and the way he talks to people, I'm telling you, man, this guy, not to mention he's 6'6", and he's got a rocket for an arm. So absolutely, he's got tons to work on. But people forget he won 10 games as a redshirt freshman. They're putting Raiola and Dante Moore on Heisman lists. I'm like, did you guys watch last year? Well, one of them didn't play, and the other one was just And if you watch the UCLA game, he was terrible. Okay, so and by the way, I'm not saying those guys are going to be good if you think I'm just being aggressive towards them. I'm not. I hope they're both great. But Nico can play. He really can. So wow, I love that too. And having John back, Garrett DiGiorgio, and this revamped O-line, I'm very excited about it too. They all did great, and it was an awesome time.
Man, well, Mike Ditka has this line that I've kind of lived by when it comes to it. Class is hard to define, but you know it when you see it. And I think you can feel that way when you look at football coaches. And the hype has preceded Tino Sunseri, coming from his lineage, his dad, working with the likes of a Bill Cowher, working with the likes of a Nick Saban. Tino got his start under Nick Saban, and he met with the media for the first time this week, and we kind of got a feel for who this guy was. You know, he named his son Sonny after The Godfather, which I found fantastic. But you see what he did with the offense at Indiana in year one. An offense that nobody anticipated being what it was, got to the college football playoff. Think about that. The Indiana Hoosiers in the college football playoff. That's a term I never thought I'd be saying in my own lifetime. And we got the offensive coordinator from there, Wayne. What have been your impressions of Tino thus far? And what makes you think he can get this offense back to the early Jim Mora days with Brett Hundley and even those DTR chip years where the offense was humming as well?
I like that you brought up Brett Hundley because I remember when we held him back. Rick Neuheisel might have lost a job because he held it back. He didn't, which was, by the way, pretty cool of him to not play him before he was ready.
Agreed.
I think sometimes we see too many quarterbacks thrust into the, what happened with Dante? Dante, if he doesn't have to play that much his freshman year, he probably would have been better off. But, hey, lessons learned. Tino's got charisma you can feel it when you're around him. I mean, he can hold a room. He can hold an audience. But that only goes so far. A lot of politicians, get up in front of an audience and sound like they can talk, but after a while you go, hey, you're kind of full of crap, so I don't really like you anymore. Tino's got, just in the little bit I've observed him practice, I'm blown away with, I put this out earlier, like he'd be like my avatar as if I was going to coach, and I did coach a long time ago, but I watched a video of him, and I saw the same press conference you guys saw, where he was fired up, and he showed them a play, and he did the fake, and he rolled out, and he threw a ball to a guy in the end zone. By the way, it was a pretty darn good throw. And that's how I coached. I'm going to show you that I can do this. I'm not just going to yell at you and scream at you and say, do it again. I'm going to demonstrate what I want it to look like. And I know not all coaches can do that because we have age restrictions and injuries and stuff like that. But when players know that you've been there, done that, a la DeShaun Foster, right? And a lot of these coaches, they've been there, done that. And you can show them how to do something right, the energy it takes. And basically the whole point of what he did was, we're not going to come out here and practice like it's not a game. We're not going to come out here and practice and just go through the motions. You need to make every single rep game speed. And that was a great, great moment. He's been on them about carrying out their fakes. Like even after you hand off on a draw play, you're going to snap it around and look like you're going to throw. These are things that if I could talk to these players, and I have a little bit, and I don't have that much time, I took pride in my faking ability. Like he's way more mobile than I was, and everybody knows that. But if you are an elite faker, and guys on defense don't know if the running back or the quarterback has the ball, you become a blocker at that point. You make the hole a little bit wider. You give the running back an extra step before the linebacker gets to him. Right? You don't get chased down from the backside because you hold that guy. Like there's so many little things that I watch young quarterbacks and quarterbacks all over the country do, and I can't stand it. He doesn't tolerate that stuff. He wants them to move their feet. He wants them to carry out their fakes. He wants them to take command of the offense. I think it was Luke, and Luke, I love you, but you were the brunt of this one. He held on the ball a little bit too long, like a la, Sanders at Colorado. Had the ball a little bit too long, and he goes, get the, insert words, get the ball out of your hand. Why are we holding on to the ball so long? And again, remember, Shedeur, that's one of the knocks on him. That needs to be coached out of him if he's going to make it in the NFL. You've got to get rid of the ball. And so I could go on for days, you guys. There's so many little moments. I even saw a moment with Coach Foster talking to a player about excessive celebration. Like, dude, we all saw you make the play. Stop it. Get back and do it again. You know what I mean? It's kind of like an act like you've been there. We're not going to have this nonsense. Hey, guys, I don't want to hear these certain words out here. We're not going to do that. The discipline, respect, and enthusiasm thing's real, and they're bringing up discipline. Discipline is what comes out of your mouth, how you act after a play, your body language when you drop a ball. Like, they're not tolerating any of that stuff. I don't want you to hang your head, run your butt back to the huddle. We all know you dropped the ball. Like, there's so many cool things that I experienced in my playing career from really good coaches that I'm just hearing it all over the field. So, I'm excited. I like coaching this area a lot. I think, like you pointed out what happened with Curtis Rourke last year. When you have a quarterback coach, and we haven't had this in a while, you guys, the quarterback coach is the coordinator. That's all I need. It's weird when it's not, because your quarterback is like your co-pilot when you're an offensive coordinator. Right? You guys have to be you have the same mind. So I love the fact that we have a quarterback coach that is the offensive coordinator too. I think it makes a huge deal. And I just love the way he coaches all of it.
No, I love to hear that, Wayne. And, I think so much of what you said resonates. There's an attention to detail that, perhaps may have been,
Yes.
lacking in years past. And, we're starting to really feel that. Wayne, holistically, I know it's only been a few days, but a couple of elements. One is, what are you seeing? You have such a high quarterback IQ. You played the position at the highest of levels. What are you seeing out of Nico these first few days, kind of on the field, where it's making you say, "Wow, he's really good. He's going to be the real deal." Like, that's sort of part A of the question, and then part B: how are you seeing this offensive line gel? You mentioned Andy Kwan earlier. Obviously, everyone's very excited about the addition of Cortland Ford, Julian Armella, a lot of beef in terms of depth, but Nico's only going to be as good as his ability to stay upright. So what are you seeing out of Nico that's kind of that second level, third level of knowledge that's getting you really excited? And then how are you feeling about this offensive line?
Well, the second part is probably the bigger question, right? Because that's still a question mark. Nico just has it. It's funny because I think the players respond to him in a way that, like, when you're an athlete, you're around someone that's really good. You just kind of know it. You just kind of, there's just that feel of, sometimes I think it's funny. Like, you might be standing next to one of the water boys or someone, and quarterback throws the ball from one hash to the other, and it's kind of on the line, and they go, and I'm like, we can all do that. I mean, I shouldn't say that. We could. Usually the guys that start can. Like, the big arm thing to me is so overblown. I mean, he's got a big enough arm. He really does. There's more to being quarterback than that, because we watch the combine every year, and like, what happened to Richardson, and what happened to Levis, and what happened? These guys all look good in their underwear, and they can run real fast, and they have really strong arms. But Joe Milton, I mean, what are they? They're not quarterbacks. They're something else. I think the same thing's going to happen with Jalen Milroe. And I'm not trying to be mean, but I think the happiest guy in the world is Kalen DeBoer. He's like, woo, I got to bring in a thrower now, because I think that's what he wants. He would have rather had Jake Hader last year. When you tell that to people, they're like, why? I go, because you need a quarterback. So when I look at a guy like Nico, what makes me really excited is he's a quarterback who is also athletic. So, like, you go back to Brett Hundley. Like, the first thing we saw from Brett Hundley was that he could run. 72 yards, first play, Rice, I believe. And I said, my God, this is incredible. Awesome. I'm like, it was insane. But then you start to watch him, and you realize he's a leader. He had all the intangibles. If you met Brett Hundley today, and I see him every so often, and every time I see him, he's just that guy. Like, he's just, if we went out and played right now, he was going to be a guy you would follow. So he has that. He has that something where I think people want to follow him, but then you start paying attention to fundamentals. And I'm going to say this about Madden too. Madden and Nico have been taught.
Yeah, man.
They have good feet. They don't float into their drops. Like, if you watch, even sometimes Cam Ward would do this. And by the way, I think Cam Ward's got a ton of talent, But I watched this with Dylan Raiola, another quarterback. I watched a whole bunch of highlights on him the other day. And he floats into his drops. He throws passes without moving his feet. It looks cool, but it's not how you're going to be great. And so hopefully someone says, dude, snap your feet around and throw that the way you're supposed to. You can do the cool stuff when you have to. So when I watched Nico, I'm watching a guy, and I told him this at Big Ten Media Day. I said, man, I love your base. I love the width of his feet. I love that he stays in an athletic stance, because you need to, standing flat-footed and throwing the ball sidearm, there are guys that can do it, that make all the young people want to do it because it looks cool. I'd much rather watch Drew Brees in the pocket. You know what I mean? Like a guy that's just snapping those feet around like a boxer, like just ready to throw. And Nico has that, and so does Madden. They have a natural throwing motion. I don't think many people teach us going straight to the ear anymore, but it's not too long. But it's athletic looking. Ball comes out of both of their hands with ease. So when you look at that, and you look at the foundation, then you look at the fact that he won 10 games at Tennessee last year. led his team to a playoff where they lost to Ohio State. There's no shame in that. And people are picking and choosing of, well, he didn't look as good against the good teams. I'm like, he was a freshman. I go, we all get better. Let's go ahead and start naming the really good quarterbacks over the last handful of years. They're old guys. Jalen Daniels got better after he left Arizona State. Right?
Absolutely.
Bo Nix was at Auburn at one point in time, and they hated him. They hated the guy. They're like, he can't play. He was a freshman. And look what he's doing now. And I can keep going, by the way. You keep going down the list of the elite senior seasons that people have had. Michael Penix, he was old, was at Indiana once. He ends up at Washington. I'm like, give these guys a chance to develop. So I'm looking at a guy that learned a ton. And by the way, still had a 19-5 touchdown interception ratio. Still ran for plenty of yards. Threw for 2,600 yards. All that stuff's not easy to do. And again, win-loss record matters. So now he's at UCLA. He's got a brilliant offensive coordinator, a head coach that I believe is at the beginning of a great career. And I grit my teeth because I want it so bad for him because I think he's busting his butt to do this. But I think Nico has all the intangibles. And now you listen to Coach Sunseri talk about how coachable he is, how much he wants to learn. How he already has talked. If you guys watch the little thing that UCLA is putting out, the little videos of they're making like a series.
Yep.
I was at the practice when Nico. First of all, it's Jack Peterson, who, by the way, I love that guy. Good year last year, going to have a better year this year. He talked to the team, and then Nico came and talked to the team too, unsolicited. It was just like, hey guys, we're done losing. We're going to be a winning program, and he's brand new. You can hear some of the guys in the back going, all right, QB1. You know, and I'm like, yeah, you want to have a leader that'll do that. Okay, part 2. Okay, this is going to be a 2-hour show, guys. Part 2, offensive line. I have no freaking idea. Okay, I love talking to Garrett DiGiorgio. You guys mentioned Cortland Ford, and we're seeing Mahe out there, and we're seeing Eugene Brooks out there. We're seeing, Uniche has been out there very actively involved. I mean, we could keep going. There are a lot of guys, which tells me there's depth. But what I've always thought was important for an offensive line coach, and again, I'm very impressed with Coach Quan too, is how much he is moving guys around. You're not necessarily seeing, this guy's our right tackle, this guy's our right guard, this guy's our center. Guys have moved around a little bit. They're going to try to find the best 5. And then there's going to be some guys that will be in the rotation too. So I love that they're doing that. Garrett talked about it a bit. Like, it's really important for him to be able to play tackle. I even teased him about trying some center, but snapping's kind of difficult. But playing both tackle and guard and playing both sides, it's huge in the development of those guys. And you never know who's going to get hurt. So, but man, we're big, really, really big, man. It's tons of size. Havermel is starting to look great, and he's huge, you guys. So tall. Big, great-looking body. One of the other tight ends I talked to that used to be a fullback. Please don't let me forget his name right now. 44. Give me a second because I talked to him the other day and I don't want to do this. Peter Mario. Man, he looks solid. So we got some dudes, and not to mention the running back room is different. Jalen looks way better. I don't think I've ever heard him say a word before, and I finally talked to him, which was fun. Javion Thomas, he's electric. I mean, he's a great guy. I love talking to him, and then Anthony Woods also. Already knew Anthony Frias, who's one of the leaders out there, man. Every coach and every teammate loves that guy. He works so hard. So, man, there's an excitement. You guys, the offense. I mean, if I were to bet $1 million on anything, it'd be that the offense is going to be way better than it was last year.
Yeah. That's the sense we're getting, Wayne. And last year you mentioned it. Kind of 16 points per game, and we were in a ton of these 16-13, 20-17, 17-14 type of games. It feels like the script has completely changed this year, and I think we're going to be in a ton of 34-30 games and 37-31 games and things along those lines. And to that end, Wayne, other side of the ball. Obviously, we lost 4 NFL players in the front 7. brought in some guys. I know we're excited very much so about Keanu Williams, Gary Smith III. John's going to be playing football full-time that we're pumped about. Chisholm at linebacker, and just a litany of options in the secondary. What are your initial impressions defensively right now, and who are some guys that you really have your eye on that are sort of making some headway? They're going to surprise some people to sort of, I don't want to say just reload because it's so hard to replace those guys, but try and fill that void.
So I'm pretty bullish on the defense too.
Okay.
And for one, I trust Ikaika Malloy. I just think he did a brilliant job last year. I know that sometimes you look at the stats and we were still probably down further, but if you actually watch the games, the defense was pretty good. Just when you have an offense that's can't keep the ball and can't sustain drives, it puts it in. You throw in Kane and Carson and Femi and Jay Tuia and all the players that we were going to lose. You go, what are we going to do? But then, Matt Stevens and I have been watching Woods for a few years now, and Matt's always been like, dude, this guy's going to be a superstar, and he's right there. Like he's absolutely, as of right now, I would expect him to be one of the guys in the middle with John. And then you talk to the coaches and they're like, hey, don't forget about Donnie. Don't forget about Pellet. And he's a guy that I loved a couple years ago, and then he got hurt. And I'm like, no, he's looking really, really good. And then you start talking about like some of the other players, and it makes you excited for what the linebackers can be. I think we're going to be very athletic. There's even a couple of young players. I met Scott Taylor the other day. I mean, he's big. Young, big linebacker. Kind of looks like a Big Ten thumper. You know what I mean? But he's young. So, that being said, and then you start going to the outside. And remember, Jacob Busick, who I talked to quite a bit. I'm like, dude, you're here. He's like, yeah, it was kind of an issue with the military. And he says, I'm healthy. I feel good. So, sometimes we don't know this with athletes, but they play seasons and they're beat up.
Yeah.
They're not 100%. And he feels great. Devin Apu is back. He's big. And I thought he played really well at the end of last year. When we had that 4-2 end of the year, I thought Devin was playing really, really well. And then you bring in Nico Davalier. I don't know if I said that right. The other Nico and Anthony Jones. And I'm telling you, these guys can play too. So we've got some athletic bodies, and they look the part. Anthony Jones is big, you guys. So he looks like a guy that can really cause some problems coming out the edge. The secondary, we can throw out names like that we were expecting Key Lawrence to be really, really good. That Cole Martin looks good in the slot. We have Pleasant, who I was joking with Anthony Woods. They had a little moment. I said, and Anthony's fast. And I go, hey, that'd be a heck of a race. He goes, no, it wouldn't. Because he kicked my butt. I mean, and he's out there at corner, and when you have a guy that can run the way he can run at corner, there's some possibilities there. Man, elite speed is. You go back and start thinking of guys like Darryl Green from my age, or like the fastest guy in the NFL. Like when you have a superstar on track and you watch the way he moves and the way he changes, because some guys are straight line, but he's got some agility to him. So we're getting Kanye Clark back. There's so many in the secondary. I had Coy Stewart, who was playing a lot at safety in the spring and now in the fall. So I think they're fighting for it. Demetric Martin, they coached me. He's like, oh yeah, we got some guys. But they've got to earn it. So I'm excited. But the one player that blew me out of the water, you guys, was Gary Smith. I heard rumors at Big Ten Media Day that he squatted 700 pounds. And I'm like, come on. That's just stupid. And then you see him, and I go out and talk to him. I go, 700 pounds. He goes, try it. And I look, and then I see his guy's shirt off, and I'm going, oh my, because Gary's round. Like he's kind of as my partner in crime, Matt Stevens, would say, man, he likes D linemen with big butts. Well, he's got a big butt. That sucker's, you can show a movie on it. But when you look at his arms and his legs and all that stuff, he is fit. He's the guy coming off an injury. And then you got Keanu Williams, same thing. I talked to him so much last year on the sidelines. He's like, I am never. It's just like with Hudson, Habermill on offense. Those two guys are so hungry to play football again that I think it was a huge gift for me when I got hurt. I didn't think it at the time. And I never really got back to being as agile. I know people will never believe that I actually was agile at one point in time in my life. But after it changes you. But these guys have worked so hard, and they're more athletic than I am, that I'm so excited for them to come back and get a chance to play. Gosh, who else should we be thinking about? How about Siale Tapaki? He shook my hand, and I swear my hand almost broke. I go, dude, what are you doing? I was talking to Corey Miller, the strength coach, and said, like, yeah, he does that. He needs to stop. But he's strong. So I could name everybody on the team if I wanted to, and I feel like I'm doing that right now. But pretty much the guys I'm bringing up are starters, or they're guys that are going to be in the rotation. And when you can put in 4 defensive ends that can play, when you can put in 4 to 6 defensive tackles that can play, when you have, I didn't even mention Ben Sutton, who's a really good athlete at linebacker, one of those guys that could be almost like a Carl Jones type hybrid type player. Like you start throwing in like the depth. That's what excites me because that leads to competition and guys wanting to stay on the field. It also leads to you not being as tired when you get into the fourth quarter. So all of that stuff is pretty exciting.
Yeah, man. Big jump for DeShaun. From year 1 to year 2, you were able to sit down with him. You did the banquet this past week. What have been, some of the, biggest things you've seen from him from jumping from year 1 to year 2, and then 32 transfers. Jamal and I were talking about it last episode. Who have you heard from the coaching staff that they're really excited about as we're getting closer and closer to game number 1 at the end of August?
Well, you guys know how coaches are. I mean, even when I do an event, to get them to say one person's name is really not easy, right? I mean, like you want to, hey, how's Quasi doing? He's doing great. Yeah, so is Mikey. And we also got, and so I pretty much, am gonna tell you that the guys that are in the rotation, new and old. Mikey looks really good. I told you that in spring. I really like him as a slot receiver. Jet, Javion Thomas looks really good. I mean, I think they're excited about players like that on offense. I mentioned the defensive ends. I think, Jones was the name that they're like, this guy has a chance. Key Lawrence is a guy that's been around at some pretty decent programs too, right? Like, and so he's a guy that they expect to come up and do some things. So there's so many of them, you guys, and a lot of them are in the mix. I am interested at receiver. I mentioned Quasi. We lost, J. Mike, who, to be quite honest with you, I hope he does great at Florida, but we didn't, and maybe it was the offense we ran last year. I don't know, but it never worked out for some reason. I've always felt like if you're a really elite player, you find the ball. It's that simple. Like if you're a great running back, you find ways to make plays. If you're a great tight end, you're going to find a way to get open and get the ball. You're like, the good ones find a way. And so, Quasi, if he wants to be the elite receiver on this team, he's going to have to find a way to be that guy. If you want, and again, I like an offense where the ball is distributed. Where everybody's involved, and I think that's going to happen in this system. But I think Titus is a guy we don't talk about enough.
Yeah.
Because Titus to me is a guy that every time I watch him play, he's full speed. And it's hard because it gets hot. It's been a little overcast down there in Costa Mesa, but once the sun finally comes out, it gets warm. It gets a little humid. Guys are getting tired. Titus has one speed. He's a really smart football player. He plays football like he loves it. I've always thought that that's a great quality to have when you're an athlete, is that you truly love to play football. And he's been with us for a while, so I'm excited for what Titus can do. But going back to the DeShaun thing, though, it's more. He just seems like he just different to me because he seems so comfortable with the staff.
Yeah.
He's able to trust the running backs coach, but he's also able to go and joke around and talk to him, and then 10 minutes later, chew him out a little bit for doing something wrong. He's able to kind of move around and coach the different positions and also trust the staff that he has, which to me, I think you can't be a head coach and almost have that chip on your shoulder where you always want to say the best stuff You want to surround yourself with people that are coaching like crazy every day. And if you can do that, if you can put brilliant people around you that know how to coach, that's what the best head coaches have always done. That's what they've always done. And then you just insert, like, we're going to do this way. He's doing his thing. And he just seems so confident to me right now. That's what I like. Like, it's just that he's at ease. And I think you have to be that way because I think the players pick up on that too.
Yeah, no, it's really well said there, Wayne. He said something at Media Day when he said, this is now, I'm used to everything. It's not the first time for everything. So there's an expectation there. Feels like, to your point, he's got his staff. I think we forget that, he got the job in February, March, when he did. So he didn't even really have a whole offseason. This is truly his first full offseason in the job. And in many ways, this is year one of the DeShaun Foster era. Wayne, it's been, you've given such a comprehensive overview here. It's been so insightful. I'm going to close with this question for you. We talked offense, we talked defense, we talked line, we talked skill position, talk Nico, talk DeShaun. Based on what you're seeing, what is this season going to bring us? What sort of are you thinking record-wise? What does success look like? What could potentially be the ceiling of this team? Where do you feel this thing is going to net out in 2025?
So the hardest part about questions like this is every team in the nation right now. I don't care. I watch. I don't know if you guys have been watching the Big Ten Network, but they're going around to the different schools, and they were at Minnesota. You listen to PJ Flack. Well, after listening to that show, they're going to win the Big Ten this year. What are you talking to? And I'm not saying they can't. I mean, like, listen. Sure. I mean, they're going to do their thing, and they're always solid. But every single team and every single they talk to, we're all going to say they all brought in the right pieces. The chemistry's great. We kind of get in this little shell where all I'm seeing is UCLA right now.
Right.
It's tricky because I look at the positions of need. We needed to get better at running back. We're better at running back. We needed to get better at the offensive line. We're better at the offensive line. But I want to remind people of this. It is my humble opinion, and it's always been my humble opinion. Like, there have been quarterbacks that have played that have played at UCLA that'll go down in history as not being as good as they were because they weren't coached well. Mm. It bothers me. We've had the same thing with offensive linemen. We've had teams where we didn't have the best coordinator. Coordinators, and if you listen to Tino and you can break it down and be that smarter than the average person out there, when he talks about how offenses should be run, it's not necessarily a system. Yeah, he has certain things he does, ways he calls plays and all that stuff, but you tinker it to help your players. You can't run a 20-yard crossing route like the Kansas City Chiefs when you can't hold anybody, when you have no run game for them to respect, and your poor quarterback's dying. It just doesn't work, and you don't have Tyreek Hill running across the top either. So it takes longer for it to happen. Like, there's just so much inconsistency that sometimes it's hard for me to say that player or this player. Sometimes I think it's the situations they were put in. So if you really, really, really pay attention to when Tino talks, and Ikaika's been doing this, you saw all year last year, we're going to give our players the best chance to succeed. You don't think that system didn't help Carson a ton last year?
Oh, yeah.
It did. I mean, it was set up to where that guy was going to make 1 million tackles. And I'm not saying that wasn't a knock on him at all. You still have to do it, right? But he did a brilliant job of putting guys in the right spots. And you also build the team where guys are willing to be the Jay Tuias of the world and take on 2 guys so that other people can make the play. Oh, Jay only had 2 tackles. Yeah, but did you watch the game? So, like I feel the same way about the offense. If you have a coach that will put your players in a situation to succeed, magically the offensive line will get better. Because guess what? The ball's out quicker.
Yeah.
We just threw a quick route here, a quick route there, a quick route there. And now you got the defense on their heels a little bit. Now you run the ball a couple times. Now the offensive linemen are walking back to the huddle, putting their shoulders back, adjusting their shoulder pads. They're kind of like, let's go. And that matters. As opposed to it's 3 and out again. They're on the sideline getting yelled at by their coach in between every series. That affects athletes. So that's what makes me excited to get me to hammer out a wins and loss. Our schedule is easier than it was last year, but I think we're still top 10 in the country. Top of schedules. I mean,
it's a bear, man.
I don't know. I think the Utah game is huge for us. You know that Coach Willingham's going to come back with something better than they had last year. I love that we're not playing them there. And that, by the way, that's not a talent thing. That's an altitude and environment.
Ice Eccles is one of the tougher, more underrated stadiums.
Totally.
Dude, in the old Pac-12, it used to be Washington, but it became Oregon and Utah. I think Washington drifted down to third. But either way, that game's huge. I don't really know what to think of UNLV because I know they lost a lot and brought in a lot, and they got a big name coach, but we'll see. But Northwestern, if you listen to them, Northwestern's weird because every time you think they're going to be terrible, that's when they have their best years.
Right.
So I don't know you guys. All I know is I love the staff. I know that none of the recruits are final. I love the way they're out on their recruiting trail. I love their hustle. Every time I talk to them, they're just a young group. They're a group with some energy. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're a group with some energy. And so this could be I would be shocked if we don't go bowling this year. Mm. And I think there's an outside chance that we could be one of those teams that shocks people and ends up, in November fighting for a playoff spot. And I only say that, and again, Nico, this is not too much pressure on you. But when you're a five-star guy, and you're an elite quarterback, when you have that, you got a shot.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference. I mean, it's like Tennessee acts like they were going to the playoffs every year. It's not true. Tennessee has gone. It's been a long time. It's been a long time for Tennessee since they've won anything. And that young man led them to a playoff, and they act like he was whatever when he left. And you know why? Because they're a bunch of butthurt. Sorry. You guys, I can do it. It cracks me up how when a player leaves. If he was still in Tennessee,
they'd be ecstatic.
He'd be on every Heisman list.
The fact he left
since he left and came back home, I don't know if he's still. He's still good. He's still. As a matter of fact, he's going to be better.
Chosen one, when he was there.
So I'm excited for that reason. I'm excited for him as a quarterback. I think he has a chance to be really good. And when you combine that with Coach Sunseri's offense, and I think the defense is going to surprise people. I think he kind of comes away as a real deal. And I think he's going to, in his staff, Coach Scott at linebacker, he's a great linebacker coach. Think of all the great linebackers he's had first time he was here and now. I mean, he's a heck of a coach. Like we got some good people. So I didn't answer your question. I said the ceiling's a bowl game. No, I said the floor.
The floor is a bowl. What I heard, Wayne, is floor is the bowl game. Ceiling is a playoff.
Floor is the bowl game. Ceiling is a playoff. Yeah,
love
it. That old Michael Jordan quote. It's like the floor is
the ceiling.
Yeah. Well, I'm not that smart. I just that was old age trick. That was the silver part at the beginning of the interview.
Love it, Wayne. Yeah. Well, Wayne,
we didn't talk about special teams, you guys.
Give it to me, Wayne. Special teams is the one area we know. We got Pagani. We got, as Thriller calls him, Pagani.
Yeah.
And don't we have an Australian kicker now? I haven't watched special teams at all. I haven't paid attention one bit.
Aussie, man.
I mean, it's about time.
Those guys can boot it, man.
They can boot it, so we'll see.
No, Wayne, it's always such a pleasure to have you on. Will and I are feeling very optimistic about this season, but when we kind of get your insights, your nuggets, it's a jolt of energy. We take our sort of perspective and 10x it and 100x it as sort of we bleed blue and gold together here, Wayne. But always such a pleasure. Can't wait to have you on here. Hopefully, in the days and weeks to come as we get closer to the start of the season and preview that Utah game, because I think you're absolutely right, Wayne. That Utah game is going to be such kind of an inflection point there after you got UNLV and New Mexico. If you can get to 1-0 there, have this momentum, potentially going into Penn State, that would be huge.
It's one of the biggest games of week. I mean, I know there's other big games. I mean, I'm not dumb. I think there's number 1 and 2 are playing each other, whatever. But it's at a different time.
Absolutely.
You're going to end your day with Utah UCLA. Big time matchup,
man. Saturday Night Lights at the Rose Bowl, baby. That's what we're talking about.
Oh, man. Season opener weighing in the night at the Rose Bowl with Utah in the house. You know, essentially the beginning of the Nico era with all of the optimism. What could be better? This is one of the more anticipated openers, Wayne, in my opinion, over the last 8 to 10 years. And we can't wait for it. But, Wayne, it's always such a pleasure to have you on the show. Can't wait to have you back. Thank you so much for everything, as always. And you know the red carpet is open for you anytime. And fans, please hit that like and subscribe button as we continue to build out the LAFB UCLA community. We're so excited to get back. Will and I will be in touch with all of you in the days to come. And as always, be loud, be proud, be mighty Bruins, and 4's up forever.